Hey there everybody, Infusion here, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Not quite audio tool, but I'm just going to be using FL this time, just because it's a little easier for me to sort of get everything done. Uh, like pretty much I've used audio tool to death, and it just takes a little bit longer to get the sort of sounds I'm after in there. And the workflow is just a little bit faster for me to sort of show you what I'm doing here in FL. But anyways, I'm sure there might be a lot of FL users watching this video at some point, so really shouldn't matter too much. The basic idea is that I want to show you and take you through making one of my track styles. And the track style is the sort of synth pop sound I've based off of Com True's, or at least he's what's got me into it, and I've sort of developed a bit of my own techniques and stuff along the way. Which I'm going to show you today, and hopefully you take some of these techniques away and use them in your own projects, and just sort of give you something to think about and something to use in the future. So anyways, as we can see here, I got my project loaded up. Of course, I'm going to get rid of this stupid limiter because it always makes everything way too loud and crummy. And just going to go to my drum samples here. And we're going to dip into some samples that I actually have a Boss DR202, and it's not bad. Kind of a fun little drum machine, but I got a few of the samples here. Making these kind of tracks, I usually want to use some pretty basic sounding drums. Sorry for the sort of laggy thing here. I'm not using my sound card to run Fruity Loops. It's just running off the main sound so I can record it. But anyways. Okay, so, and we're just going to add in a hi-hat here. We're going to want a tempo of about anywhere from 95 to 110 or something like that. Yeah, those are all nice tempos for this sort of style. So let's just do something here. We're just going to add in a little bit of volume changes here just to make it slightly more interesting. Just a note about programming your drums. This is kind of a stylistic choice, but the way I like to do it, I don't like to get fancy with nudging the notes around by milliseconds or anything, because you kind of want it to sound like a vintage drum machine, which of course is programmed in these 16ths, so... We're going to go ahead and route these all to the same track so we can compress them all. Which is what you want to do sometimes, what I like to do, because it makes the drums sound a little more cohesive if you bust them together and give them the same effects. So anyways, I'm just going to throw a sound goodizer on here, because I like the way the sound goodizer sounds. And we could do like super proper compression or whatever, but really it doesn't matter. Okay, so just gonna do a slight amount of stuff here. Alright, so that's pretty good enough for just your basic drum loop here. So let's just go ahead and name this beat A. And I always like to color my channels, so make it red. And load up our playlist here. Gonna bring this up in volume just a little. Okay, so now that we have that, let's just name this drum. And next we're going to make a bass. Now I'll be using Zeta for all this because it's pretty much the only synth I own right now besides Pentagon. I didn't buy the full Fruity Loops package, just the producer edition, so I'm going to be using Zeta. I'm just going to show you quickly how to program the bass, which is pretty simple. Just I'm going to grab a square wave here and bring it down 1 octave. Next, we're just going to throw in a little filter action here. And all I'm doing here is I'm just assigning an envelope to the filter. Lower all these. It's kind of weird. I'm still getting used to this envelope system here in Zeta. It's kind of weird with all the weird things. Anyways, just we'll do that. And let's just have a listen here. Slide that all the way to filter 1. And then all you really got to do is just add in a saw or something 1 octave up. Bring it down in volume there a little. That's pretty much the sound. Pretty simple. Okay, so we're just gonna make this, give this an FX channel here, and what we're going to do is we're gonna do a little side chaining. And the way you do that in FL is you just take the channel you want to sidechain with, right click in the bottom here and go sidechain to this track. And just set it here, sidechain 1, and that should sidechain our bass line. Let's throw it in down here, add in a sound goodizer, and bit of an EQ. Something like that. One note about EQ here. You'll notice I'm not really making too huge changes or anything. I really don't think you should be jamming it up like this or anything. Really, EQ to me is just about really nice small changes here. You usually want to remove frequencies instead of adding frequencies because it just works out better that way. Okay, so let's go to a new pattern here. Now these kind of bass lines are really easy. It's really just the same note on 16ths. You can hear that kind of nice little side chaining action there. Gives the bass a little more of a pop. One thing I should notice, or one thing I should mention here, one common thing I like to do is just use the black keys. I don't know what scale you call that, but I find myself using the black keys. But I find myself using the black keys a lot, and that just kind of makes things easy for when you're programming all your leads and stuff. So one thing you can do is just delete a couple of these notes. It gives it a bit of a shuffle. Again, here we're just going to color this in. purple because I always make my basses purple. I don't know why, but basses just seem purple to me. Okay, so we're gonna add another zeta, and now we're gonna work on our main synth lead, which is going to be the interesting part of the track here. So if you're wanting to make one of these yourself, it's pretty easy. It's usually pretty simple stuff like a saw wave synced to a square wave, or just like a couple saws or something. There's some nice ones built in here though, so I'm just going to use those. Something like that. Okay, so just going to give this its own channel here. Name this one Bassline Synth. Do a bit of EQ here. And I always like to give a nice ping pong delay. Another thing I'll always like to do here, if I can get down to seems there's not enough screen space, but I'm just going to have to click this polyphony down to one here. Hopefully that works. So you can't see it, but I just took the polyphony down to 1, so it's a monophonic sound, which I think is important if you're trying to get that old sort of analog-y sound. I usually like to add in a bit of triggered Portamento here for some nice bending. Okay, so let us make our pattern. So pretty much all I'm going to be doing here, it'll look like I know what I'm doing, but really all I'm doing is just randomly using black keys. And you'll just see. I'll just program a little part for myself here. Like the second bit here, so I'm gonna just delete all this and work on that. You'll notice there's also couple white keys in here, but mainly just the black keys. I usually don't know what the heck I'm doing, so I just sort of listen it out, and I kind of know what I'm listening for. I really think anybody does, because if a note's out of scale, they'll notice immediately. So I just kind of feel my way around that way. Anyways, just going to continue to work on this little lead part here. Here's like a little Portamento trick I like to use. Kind of gives it this weird little bendy vibrato thing. Okay, go back to this. Okay, so that's just our first little part here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead here and copy this over. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this bass line and I'm going to sort of give it a little movement here up and down the keys just to make it sound a little more interesting. A really lazy trick I always do. Instead of making fills and stuff, I just kind of drop out the last bit here. That makes like a really easy transition. Yeah, so we'll just do that. Again, I'm just using the black keys here. Just do something like that. Then drop this down. Again, it's just all black keys. I'm just randomly assigning this. Like that kind of sounds like it wants to go down, so I'll do that. Get rid of this because it's not really the end of the passage there. You really only want to do transitions when it's like changing into a new section. Or I do anyways. Okay, so that sounds good. Let's just have a listen to that. going to change up the drums a little by adding in a little open hat here, just to make our next section a little more interesting with the drums. Open hat. And of course, my hats are always yellow. Make this green. Because lead synths are green, man. And purplify this, just so I can easily see what everything is, instead of just having a bunch of vague clips. Okay, so back to open hat. Of course, set these to the drum channel. So we kind of already have this hat there, so what I'm going to do just to make a little more space for this is I'm going to spread out the hat with a stereo spreader, and of course route this to the drum channel. So you notice there it sounds a lot more clear because I spread it out to the sides. That's one of the things you want to do when you're thinking about your mix, is just working with the stereo field like that. You don't want to have two things sort of clogging up in the same area, because it will make your mix a little more muddy. Okay, anyways, let's just move these down here so I can have the drums together. And we're going to go ahead and make a second synth pattern here for our new section. And I'm just going to use the technique I did before, just going to sort of feel around and just sort of do something different. One good technique to use is to have like a section that sort of has longer, slower notes, and then change it up with like some faster arpeggio kind of notes or something. So I'll show you what I mean.